All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another live, if you're watching it on YouTube at time of recording or potentially listening back on the podcast feed a little later, version of the London is Blue podcast reacting to Chelsea's draw against Arsenal at home at Stamford Bridge and the last match before another unfortunate international break for the Chelsea men's team. I think there's going to be a lot of mixed emotions here, but it's not a loss. Chelsea in third place in the Premier League table. A sumptuous goal from one Pedro Neto absolutely gets Chelsea back on level terms and splitting the points with the Gunners. So it does not end in complete disgrace for Robert Sanchez and the near post marking that he put in, which is why we had to get Brandon Busby back to talk about goalkeeping gaffes and everything in between, along with Nick and Sam, CFC Central. But Brandon, welcome back. Welcome to the live stream. Thanks for taking a little bit of break on your parenting duties to react to this one with us.
Yeah, what's up, squad? Good timing. William slept through the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half, so I'm available.
So did I. That was great. Yeah.
Look, you both absorbed the same amount of information, you could say. So, but no, I'm good. I'm excited. Arsenal every time, chance to go third, big opportunity for a young team, and it was must not lose, and we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it ends the same way that it did last season, Nick. A draw at home against Arsenal was 2-2 last season. So you could argue that it stays the same year over year. Now Chelsea just have to go win at the Emirates this season or draw to improve upon their season over season performance against Arsenal. But I think you have a more somber tone in relation to how this result went down today.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, grand scheme of things, whatever, you get a point, you move third, although that third is super tenuous. Like, I don't think anyone should really be banking on that third right now. Like,
four teams on 19 points. Is that your point?
Yeah. Like, come on, like, be serious for a second. Like, it's fine. It looks okay for right now. But I think unlike last year, we did not play to win today. We played to draw. It seemed very risk averse, and it seemed at equal measures sloppy and undisciplined. And last year we undid ourselves through bad play at the end of the game when we were very comfortably up 2-0. This year we didn't really create that much. I mean, we'll go through the stats, and there are a few opportunities obviously, but this is an Arsenal team that's reeling and they're not playing that well, and we did not force them into some of their bad habits, and instead we showed some of ours. So I hate them. I hate Arsenal. There's no, ifs, ands, or buts about the way I'm going to feel about this, and I'm disappointed we didn't go for the kill.
It does feel like it will be a little bit of a mentality breaker for this side, particularly with the Kai Havertz shush that got removed or chalked off the board. Sam, how are you kind of reacting to this result in the grand scheme of things as it relates to Chelsea's maybe position on the table and just how they contrasted against Arsenal in this match?
I'm still trying to pick a stance here, sort of like dancing on the fence, to be honest, because from an individual standpoint, like Nick, I feel disappointed. I do feel like this was an Arsenal side that was there for the taking, despite Odegaard making it, Rice making it. There was a nice spell of control that we had in the first half, and you want to sort of push your initiative and make it count. And like Nick said, you just stepped off, you waited for things to happen. It didn't look like we were offering any amount of sustained pressure. On the bright side, yes, compared to where we were last season, I think Arsenal were 9 points ahead when the fixture happened. So being a little ahead of them now sort of gives you a sense of, yes, maybe we're making progress. But I mean, I look back at the result that happened last year, and honestly, it just feels like more of the same. I come away feeling disappointed, like I haven't learned anything about the side that I don't know yet.
It definitely is an interesting place to be through this episode. We'll talk a little bit about what went well for Chelsea. I mean, there were a couple of key standout performances. I think we want to talk a lot about Pedro Neto and just how he was involved in this game. Moises Caicedo continuing to be at the level. And then I think there are some questions about the deployment of Cole Palmer. Was it worth it during related to the injury and maybe his effectiveness in this match. And then I think there are some continued big questions as it relates to Robert Sanchez and some of our defenders, maybe particularly Reece James for Gusto is kind of maybe the question there. But, maybe some 3-word match reviews to get it going. Nick, do you have a 3-word match review to sum up your feelings on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's played for draw. I mean, that's basically what it was. This was a like don't lose at home sort of performance and like minimize risk. How's that?
Oh, we had a couple from our Discord community with CMXCL with 2 points dropped. You had Uni 96 with no Arsenal title. And that is one that we could kind of all celebrate there. Spanish Joe with the Kiss My Arsenal. You had the Clip Show with Slow, Steady Progress. Brandon, did you have one as well? A 3-word match review?
Table management success. I know this is going to probably be my theme, but it's if you're managing week to week and kind of where we're at, like it will all be at a thin third. Last year at this time we were 11th, so 8-point difference.
That is nothing to sneeze at in this match in this regard. So I think definitely things to get about. We had Rob, our good friend, Journalism RP, with All About Oliver, making sure that the officiating was called into question with this match as well. You had our good friend Jay or Jess with the Thank You, Pedro. That definitely is one to get celebrated as well. Sam, do you have a 3-word match review to round us out here?
I actually do. I had London is grey, and I had vote for Pedro.
Would it be purple?
So, yeah.
If you mix the two colors because it's a draw.
Oh my
He's
God!
just
But
talking
yeah,
about
I
the
mean,
weather.
it just. Yeah, I mean, I find it confusing that they have a newspaper called The Sun, but well, I know it just feels like it was quite monotonous. I genuinely wanted us to go out there and show a little bit of our radiant selves, but just came out feeling meh about it. So
let's take a kind of transition here. So I think there were some highlights on the day. Maybe you can disagree with me on this one. I kind of want to start with Pedro Neto because I think this was a great coming out match for him at home at Stamford Bridge. First Premier League goal for the club. Played on the left wing, played on the right wing, found himself involved in all matters of attack, was getting crosses into the box and delivery that we had not seen from all of our wingers consistently this season. I mean, what did you make, Nick, of his performance and just how he was able to impact the game? I think definitely these are the types of results where if a Chelsea player can score against an Arsenal, against a Liverpool, against a City at home, it starts to create a little bit of mentality, a little bit of lore, a little bit of character for that player. And this seemingly has started to etch a little bit of that story behind Pedro Neto now.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was very quiet the first like 15 minutes of the game, and then really grew into it and looked like he was having fun out there, which I think is a big part of these very tense matches and very tense atmospheres. Is like you could tell by all the little tricks and stops and all the he was having fun with messing with Ben White, and that was a lot of fun to watch until he got switched over to the right. And then he had a lot of fun messing with Timber, which was equally delightful. And he is a massive positive to take out of this game, because in a team that has not locked down, I think based on Madueke's performance today, not locked down starting wingers at all this season, it's the kind of performance that can make you indispensable. The goal is obviously great, but I was much more impressed, especially when he was on the left, with how he was helping out Cucurella defensively and trying to like kind of bracket Saka a little bit. And I was very pleased with what I saw from Neto on the day. Obviously, I think he functions a little bit differently on the right because he can come in on that great left foot, and that's kind of what we saw with the goal. But I think some of the off the ball stuff was equally as impressive. So very, very good game for him.
Well, Sam, he had one goal off an XG of 0.6 with the 3 shots that he took on the day. He had an expected assist of 0.52. I mean, he had 3 accurate crosses out of 4.
Only 0.52 for that Gusto assist. Are you kidding me? That should be like a 0.9. It's harder to miss that chance than it is to to make it. I mean, give me a break.
Well, lots of questions there, but Sam, what are you seeing in Pedro Neto? Are you liking the left wing deployment? Are you liking the right wing deployment? Do you feel like he's locking down any type of spot? Is he moving himself into more of the conversation versus other wingers? I mean, obviously, Sancho's still not available right now, which kind of made it, I think, a bit easier of a decision to play both Madueke and Neto, but it feels like maybe Neto is in the ascendancy at the moment, given his kind of recent last couple of performances.
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, a goal or assist in 3 successive appearances for Chelsea. The last time that he managed it was 283 days ago, which was coincidentally also the last time that he scored a league goal. So it does feel like fitness has played a big part. And if you look at it tactically, what he's done in terms of giving Maresca a headache is one, he's sensational out of possession. Even before the goal, I pointed this out on Twitter. Odegaard was trying to essentially move away from Lavia to the wing, and Neto was essentially just shuffling between Ben White and Odegaard. So had to mark 2 players, had to jump on one, had to shadow the other, kept doing it every single time without giving up on his attacking duties. And the second I'd like to highlight is the fact that unlike Sancho, this guy does not need an overlap or an underlap. He will wait, and once he's isolated 1v1, he will drive towards it. If you remember the first cross for Gusto, he made Ben White do the tango for like 6 seconds before shuffling onto his other foot and then crossing to the far post. It's not something that you see with Jadon Sancho. He waits, he points to the byline, asking somebody to run there before he makes a decision, usually making a pass diagonally inside. But Neto is just his own thing. So from those two perspectives, massive improvement. I still think the conundrum is that he's definitely a more explosive shooter from the right hand side, but like his crosses, his deliveries are just great from either side. So irrespective, just nice to have that left wing sorted. And if Madueke sort of doesn't get his act up, then it does look like there'll be a shift to the right hand side, and then we can push from there. But super impressive performance, even without the goal, excellent.
The only thing I'd add to that, Sam, is he's starting to look like he's trusting his body again. There were many moments in this game where Neto was kind of in that situation where he's like trying to figure out which way to mark, right? Is he going to take Odegaard inside? Is he going to track back for Saka? And those little cuts, those little jabs that he does, those are like high intensity moves. And he's had this injury history, and he looked very, very comfortable bouncing off the walls today from an energy perspective. I think him getting his body right and maybe this slow roll into the season could really benefit him as the season wears on, because when he's able to play with this much energy and confidence, you can tell there's a real player there instead of someone who's trying to like manage a hamstring or manage a calf or whatever the case is. So I just wanted to give that a shot. It looks like he's really coming around to be physically confident again.
Well, and he's played 43% of the entirety of the minutes he played all of last season for Wolves at this point. So you're talking about his return to fitness, his readiness, his availability, definitely on the rise, and I think going to create challenges for Maresca. I think we could also talk about the other player on the left wing, I think, who had a left side rather, who had a really great day, and Marco Correa, another great performance here. I know Brandon, we had seen a couple of interesting deployments in our back line over the past couple of matches here in terms of, who plays at left back. But, I think in any way, shape, or form, if it's a best 11 for Enzo Maresca, it's involving the player like Marco Correa on the day, giving it to the lino on the officiating that they didn't do with the offside goal for Havertz. Fantastic. I'll take that card, even though it should not have happened. I don't know. It was just another great performance by him. But Bukayo Saka did nothing against Marco Correa, and that's always a joy too.
Yeah, so I think this is the best starting 11 we have is with a left back playing left back. But that's just a fact. Now, who plays on the right comes down to fitness, I would say. But Cucurella, right? He seems to love playing Saka, right? Like internationally, domestically, this is his jam. What was the WhatsApp that they sent? It was just zeros, Dan, right? Like he did.
Yeah, it was 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 shots on target, 0 chances created, 0 accurate crosses in 81 minutes.
So on top of that, he won 4 out of his 5 ground duels, had 3 interceptions, 3 total tackles, a block shot, a couple clearances, 92% passing as well, which I think is good. Was never dribbled past. He's a harrier of a defender, and thankfully, the way Arsenal's set up, Cucurella is able to go and like high press Saka in those moments because there's really no one else around him. And if he passes backward, that's fine. But it's not like Kai is coming over to collaborate and things like that. So I think that this was again the perfect day for Cucurella in terms of the matchup. The way Saka plays seems to go right into the strengths of Cucurella, and we saw it again.
I know you told me not to jump in on every point, Dan, but this is one I will not obey the ruling.
Pick and choose.
First of all, he was my man of the match. I thought that he was absolutely tremendous today, and not only the help on Saka, who he did a great job on Saka one-on-one, but he got so stuck in the midfield that he allowed Moises Caicedo to move up into the midfield and start winning balls up there. He had like 3 or 4 dual wins. It felt like in a minute in the first half where he was just relentlessly chasing down whoever had the ball and winning it back in dangerous areas. I can't understate or overstate his importance in this sort of critical role in these big games against teams who have legitimate wide talent. He is really making a name for himself now. And again, if we could rewind to 2 years ago, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He is genuinely right now up for my player of the season alongside Cole Palmer. Like, that's how good he's been. Yes. I don't believe I'm saying it either, but you watch a game like this, you need a lockdown player, and he was unbelievably good today.
I mean, Sam, is he in contention maybe for your player of the season? I think Nick also mentioned Moises Caicedo as another individual. I feel like he would be in that conversation alongside Cole Palmer. But Cucurella on the day, did you see or observe anything else of note in how he was kind of combining? It did feel like once we made the shift to Mudryk on the left-hand side, that really started to blunt a little bit of the partnership that Neto and Cucurella were forming.
Yeah, I think like Brandon mentioned, some players have bogey players, and Saka's feels like Cucurella. There's just something about him in terms of understanding the mannerisms, reading where he's going to go, what he's going to do, which works out very well in our favor. So I maybe like Maresca's seen that tape and decided, okay, it's just wiser instead of putting Gusto out there, putting Cucurella there because he's most of the times did a fantastic job on him. So I wouldn't go as far as to say he's a player of the season contender, but I would 100% push Moises Caicedo on the same pedestal. Like I do believe he's been player of the season material for me. Again, immense today, and I do feel like he's single-handedly running the midfield. We just lack a second midfield partner for him. The moment we can give him something that he deserves, we get even better. And I mentioned this on the last pod, Nick, when we were with Chidge. I don't trust Lavia along with Caicedo, and today he gave away the ball for the goal, and it just honks. Like genuinely out of possession, it doesn't matter whether you put Enzo or Lavia, you're going to have the same issues.
Sam, what does he need next to him? Because if it's not Enzo, a world-class ball player, and it's not Lavia, who's supposed to kind of like stay back and sit next to him, like I don't know what else Chelsea. I guess I'm trying to figure out what that balance is as well from a profile standpoint. You've really only got Vega who could come in and do something different than those types of guys without putting a Joao Felix or Nkunku that deep, which doesn't make sense. Do you have an idea what would be more complementary? Because 100 million on Enzo is going to be tough to move.
Yeah, it is. And, perhaps when I looked at it before the season started, I had this funky idea it was going to be Colwill and Fofana, plus maybe Reece James, Enzo, and Caicedo. So maybe like a midfield 3 like that to ensure there's better space coverage. But it does look like that third center back feels more important for Maresca. He doesn't want to be in that position where you have enough, credit in the bank to say, okay, it's Van Dijk and Konate, they'll stop whatever comes at them. I don't think we are there yet, but maybe in the future. But if you're asking in a double pivot, I would love somebody who's just able to first of all, is a phenomenal athlete who's able to offer ground coverage, especially in defensive transition, because the moment the ball is lost, you see those short legs trying to waddle back into space. It just looks like it's going to be, the end. So you definitely want somebody who is able to cover distances, short distances at record time, which Caicedo does magnificently. I think Andre Santos is 100% in that, range in terms of being able to offer something in the first phase, being able to offer distance coverage between both boxes, and also pop up in the box occasionally for a goal. So I'm definitely putting all my apples in that basket. I know he's super young, but I've been watching him for a long time, and knowing how he's led the Brazilian U19 team, knowing how far he's come, orchestrating build up in the Brazilian second division at 15, 16 years old when you've got 40-year-olds in your team. That's just different gravy. So I'm waiting for him to come back. I definitely think so. I think Ugochukwu could also be that, but definitely needs to be playing more. Doesn't feel like he's having a good time at Southampton, but hopefully he'll have a upturn like Andre.
I mean, just some of the stats for one, Moises Caicedo, to kind of focus on the player who's currently in the team. And a nice thing to see on, I think, his heat map for the day, it was bright red in the center circle. If we talk about some of the times we've been pushed back a little bit further, his heat map tends to be brighter red right in front of the box. And so this is a nice element to see him push a little further forward to keep Chelsea moving, keep the momentum going. 6 out of 8 accurate long balls. He had 4 out of 8 ground duels ones, 1 out of 2 aerial duels won, 1 clearance, 2 block shots, 1 interception, 3 total tackles on the day. Gave up 2 fouls as well. But I think can't say enough good things about Moises Caicedo. Maybe, Nick, it did feel like this was a bit of a down game for one Cole Palmer. We know that he had a rush to make fitness for this one. We know that it wasn't necessarily a standout or stellar performance from him, even though there were 1 or 2 bright moments where you thought that just with the way he is, the player he is, that just with a chance, an off chance that he might produce a little bit of magic, because that's who the player he is. But it was a little lacking on the day. No rabbits out of the hat from Cole Palmer in this one.
No, he didn't look right, to be honest. Like, he looked physically limited. And I think, for as dynamic as he is, and as much as physicality is not his, is his game at all, I think the Arsenal players kind of felt that about 20 minutes in, that he wasn't going to be popping up everywhere that he normally pops up. And there were large stretches in this game where we simply didn't get him the ball either, to have that chance to make an impact. So, yeah, I mean, I understand why you make the risk to play him. I didn't think he was going to play in this game, but, he definitely proved me wrong. I just don't know if it was like the most effective, choice. And I think it was pretty obvious, like even, 45th minute on, second half on, that it was not going to be his day to really impact proceedings. And I think he found himself kind of aimlessly out on the wings at times and just trying to pick up the ball wherever. The question I would have in this instance to Maresca is like, is a slowly recovering Nkunku, just played 90 minutes the other day, really not an option in this sort of scenario to play behind Jackson, not to come in for Jackson, to play behind Jackson, because the physicality that we saw, and I think the just limited kind of classic Cole pop-ups where he just kind of like, oh, I'm here now. Oh, I'm over here. And that it just didn't feel like his day.
It did, and Brandon, it did feel like there were shots that he had, but it was all first half moments for Cole Palmer. All 4 of his shots were in the first half. 1 on target, 1 off target, 2 blocked, just maybe not necessarily involved. I mean, we did see Nkunku come in the 88th minute for Nico Jackson, and kind of one of the most pointless types of substitutes to make in a match, to wind down the clock and get you a couple extra ticks on it. Cole goes the full distance and that was one. But it does feel like, maybe to Nick's point, a little bit of a maybe unnecessary gamble, or potentially an opportunity to try something different, maybe with an earlier sub.
I mean, I don't get it. You can say, hey, this is our last big match for a while, right? With Leicester, Villa, Southampton coming up in the league. You can probably give him a couple of weeks off. He's not going to play against Heidenheim in the Conference League because he's not even rostered. But this is where I'm at. And so I'd say, all right, hey, Maresca, you tried it, right? Because we've never tried playing Cole with a knock. So, all right, let's see how it went. Not good, but we knew that. Like 60 minutes in, we knew that, right? And unless you're getting a penalty, but even like when he tried to take that free kick and like from 45 out early, I mean, he wasn't even close. Minus his first shot, it was downhill from there where he made Raya make a save. And so I think you just have to acknowledge that and like play around that and be like, it wasn't there. My follow-up question is, why did we buy Nkunku? If we're not going to play him and we're not going to rely on him as if he wasn't the golden boot winner in the Bundesliga a couple seasons ago, I'm just a little bit curious. And maybe we bought him pre-Poch for Poch and Maresca doesn't see it. But like from a ceiling perspective and a potential, like he's been in the French national team and they've been loaded. He can score goals. I'm not going to lean on the fact that he's our leading goal scorer with, 9 in the Conference League. Like obviously not. I'm just surprised that it seems like he is not trusted when Cole was not very good today. Nico Jackson didn't look interested in running at anybody. I think that's a missing piece here. And it, to me, feels like there's a lack of trust or he's not the right profile for some reason, since he only gets what I would call is like these kind of garbage minutes at the end of a match.
I mean, was before this game had only featured for 541 minutes. I mean, again, 9 goals plus assists, 8 of those goals, 1 assist across all of those minutes. A very high return for the time that he does play on the pitch. And now 2 of those were penalties, so I guess you could take that as it will. But Sam, are you surprised there weren't any adjustments or changes other than really Pedro Neto heading out to the right wing when Mudryk came on? I mean, that felt like the only real change we tried an attack, and maybe there was something there, or do you think it was just more of a pragmatic view of taking a point at home and not losing the game?
I'm a huge fan of Nkunku, Dan, and I genuinely believe, like Brandon said, maybe in a side like this, to be the experienced difference maker, somebody who offers like at least 20 goals and assists over the course of a season in a good side. But we've also seen him pop up in the Conference League against Ghent, where he just refused to win a duel against the centre backs. Now, if you're not working hard, if you're not making the basics count in with all due respect, a Tier B competition, then why the hell should you be playing the Premier League? So if you want to sulk and basically, say that I need to be entitled enough to play those first team competitions, I'm very sorry, but it doesn't look like you won the chance to do so. And I do feel like he's not a number 9. No matter, how many ever times you try to shoehorn him in, you have to play him behind the center forward. Pochettino knew that from the first day at Wrexham. And the moment you're able to do it, that's how he configured it. The only thing was we didn't have Cole Palmer until later on when the season started. And the moment you have Palmer and Nkunku, then it becomes, a power struggle. Who's going to play in that 4-4-2 next to Nico Jackson? How are you going to adjust the out of possession shape? Who's going to play number 10? So all of those issues come in, and it does look like Palmer, is the harder working guy, offers you that amount of magic consistently. So Nkunku has no excuses at this point. And if he feels like he wishes to leave, then all right, like the recruitment setup will be like, we've got enough hits now on our register to say you'll find the next one.
So maybe switching gears then, because we've had a chance to talk about Cole, we've had a chance to talk a little bit about the attack. I think, Brandon, you're on the pod this episode. We got to talk about Sanchez again. We got to talk about Robert.
For sure.
And another performance that makes us question the sporting director's decisions to stick and not twist on Sanchez heading into this season. What did you make on maybe just the goal he gave up and his positioning there, and just some of the things that you've been seeing over the last run of matches?
All right. So first one with the goal, I put it in the group chat. He should be like, when you're that close to the touchline, I would have expected him to be hugging the post. So like the near post wasn't even an option for Martinelli. Like let him try to bend it around the touchline on that. It's just near impossible. So he might have just not realized where he was exact on the pitch, but his angle play is the technique that we use in goalkeeper world was not optimal. in that sense. Really should have used his angle play to cut off that near post and forced Martinelli to do something at the far post, which is, pretty impossible at that point. So the goal, not great, a little bit annoying. In terms of bigger picture, I think I'm pretty vindicated in what I said preseason, right? I think when we did the team analysis and the predictions, you can keep Sanchez, that's fine, but you better go get someone better. And Jorgensen is not better today. Maybe the potential's there, but it's not today. And so you moved out Petrovic, who you could say is probably at level with Jorgensen for some reason. You've decided to stick with Sanchez for the big games, knowing that he's not the top number one that we want. And Liverpool made a move. They went and got Mashklavelli, or however you say it, put him on loan. Like they're already
Martishvili, my guy.
Martishvili, and they're
Maraschino.
already doing a backup plan for Alisson, who doesn't look like, some injuries this season, but overall, like you'd imagine, he'd have many years ahead, and Chelsea just aren't there. And so I think the fact you have Ben Roberts, you have Willy Caballero, you have Ilario, you have the goalkeeping coach that Maresco brought in. There are so many goalkeepers on staff that it baffles me that this is the situation we find ourselves, unless they just felt like the market wasn't there. But it's not good enough, and that's the easiest way to put it. And it's going to continue to be a liability this season, gentlemen. I apologize. I got nothing better.
Brandon, how many points does this, not only the goalkeeper, who I think has been a problem, but I think the setup where we will give away sloppy goals because of the way that we play. How many points does this end up costing us in the race for top four? Because I think that's the calculus that a lot of people are doing in their head right now to figure out, is this really going to take us out of this top four, or is it just going to be annoying as hell?
That's tough, because I think the whole defensive unit has been pretty average this season. So there's been times where the center backs have lost their mark, let a ball float over their head, and then you're left with just Sanchez to try to clean up the mess, and it doesn't always happen. So I do think it's a little bit of both. Look, I genuinely think there's probably like a 75% chance that the goalkeeping situation does keep us from being top four. I think that's I can't do points, but if we get to the end of it and we haven't sorted out like the situation between like the center backs and the goalkeeper, then it's not gonna be something we look at fondly on.
Just a couple interesting stats to throw out there, Sam, as we talk about this in terms of global goalkeeping compared to the rest of the Premier League. So actually our save percentage for shots on target is 80.4, which is actually third best in the Premier League at the moment. Only Liverpool and Forest have a better shot on target save. Now, one of those, like Liverpool, has 6 clean sheets. One of those, like Forest, has 4 clean sheets. One of those, like Chelsea, has only 2 clean sheets. We've also faced the most penalties in the Premier League this season: 3 attempted, 2 allowed, 1 saved, which is 33%, which puts you kind of in a different space there as well. It does feel like there's moments where Robert Sanchez is brilliant and he's Bob and we love him. And those are definitely fewer and far between for the general Robert performance we get. I mean, it's partially down to him. I think there's also been some questions around how well the center backs have been performing, maybe not being as consistent. How much are you putting this onto Robert and Brandon's comment here that maybe there's a 75% chance that we don't get top four because of our goalkeeping and defensive situation? Are you as worried and as alarmed as Brandon is?
Well, I think I'll probably take a different view on this. So when I'm watching players, especially center backs, you don't always judge the final action. You try to see where the chain of events began, like where the disaster started and who lit the fuse before the explosion happened. And in this particular game, I'm very reticent to blame him, to be honest. I think that goal that we conceded was a Lavia mistake, with Colwill caught deeper than he should be, playing Martinelli online. And then after that, the moment the ball went to the far post, it's just 2 players against nobody. And again, like Brandon said, you have to cover your angles, but if the ball isn't given away, we aren't there in the first place in that situation. So we need to be doing better against, especially a side like Arsenal, who we know press very well when they have Odegaard. And those are again rookie mistakes that we've been making for the past year and a half, and that's something that we have to scrub clean. We don't have, centre backs who've played together for a long time, and each has an individual sort of struggle going on. I thought West Fana was very, very good today, to be honest.
Mhm.
But Levi, for me, had a pretty poor game. And again, one of that tends to happen, and then the moment we get both of those guys being supremely reliable, I think the goalkeeping numbers and stats sort of improve too. I'm looking at it as a unit performance, and it's easy to blame him because he's obviously, the final line of defense, but I'm very reluctant to blame him for this one.
I'd like to talk about Levi for a second. This is not just this game. This is I think, a continuing string of very average, stroke poor performances. And for a guy who I think Maresca has tried to big up, who has been given a lot of responsibility, future, captain, leader, whatever you want to say about him, he is making some really diabolical mistakes all over the pitch. I mean, you look at his stat back today, he gives the ball away 14 times. He's obviously caught, sleeping on the first Havertz non-goal. They take quickly. He is liable for being onside for the goal that they do score. He only won 2 of 5 ground duels and was out of position multiple times. Look, I'm not saying that he is in any sort of jeopardy of losing that starting spot, because I don't think Badiashile will give him really that much competition. But for a guy who's supposed to be, I think, one of the leaders of the back line, I'm not seeing it. And the yellow card for me is super, super clumsy today. He got absolutely turned and didn't have the pace to make it up and had to make that challenge, which is fine. But like, the audacity to complain about it when you didn't even come close to winning the ball is just silly. So this is a 4 out of 10 performance for me from Levi today. And I hope that he is able to tighten it up. I know it's not going to be popular. People love him, but he's not been that good this season.
You're not going to like what Enzo Maresca said in the post-match press conference.
Tremendous. Yeah.
Defensively, we were very good, apart from the goal we conceded, but the rest we were good.
I mean, you didn't really give up that much, but there was some really sloppy play there. So, if you're telling me that that's good, I don't know.
It's like, I remember when he was next gen player, right? Was on loan, then went to Brighton. What I would just say is, what is he, 21? He's going through the growth at an incredible level where it's not like Brighton where you're not in the spotlight and some things like that. So it's true. But if the sporting director's process and plan is to put these young players in and let them develop in the fire and forge greatness out of them, it's happening, right? The key though is you can't drown them into the point where they lose all confidence in their abilities. There does have to be that coming out of it and finding success as well to balance it. So I think today they're getting the result, and I think they're realizing, hey, we're getting through it even though we're not at our best. I kind of said it before the game. I'm thinking this is building blocks in the front half of the season so we can go do some better things in the back half. But survival is the game right now. We are in an uncomfortable position in third, Nick, as you know, with about a 17 log jam on 17 and 18 points. But we are where we are and goal difference is our savior. We just have to keep going. Hey, step at a time and keep surviving.
3 points between us and 12th.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Love it.
So
all 3 points, big steps.
You drop even a little in this league. This is why beating United is such a big priority. It's why beating Arsenal when they're beatable is such a huge priority. It's why the little things like not getting that draw at Anfield make a huge difference. This is not negative Nick talking. This is math Nick talking, which I hate math Nick. Math Nick is the worst. But you really look at the table and you're one bad performance away from being 10th again. That's it.
So maybe to set a bit of a different, or cast a little bit of a different light on where we are on the table and where we stand now. And then, we had talked about this being the run of fixtures to define where Chelsea's season was going to be heading this last international break into the start of this international break. So Chelsea end the day in third. It is our first day and in the first time since the final day of the 2021-22 season that we will end a day in the top 3 places in the Premier League table.
That's wild and unacceptable on so many levels.
Just, in terms of trying to paint a little optimism, trying to talk about where we're at, trying to talk about the upward trajectory. And when you start to look at what Chelsea come back to after the international break, and I think I want to kind of transition the conversation here about like where are we feeling and how are we feeling heading into this. I mean, Chelsea have Leicester, then we have Heidenheim, we have Villa, which would I think be one of the teams that even with the logjam you would say better as a team than they are in their league table position. But then it's Southampton, Tottenham, who've had some very questionable performances over the last couple of weeks here. You have Brentford, who've been shaky. You have Everton, you have Fulham, and you have Ipswich Town. That rounds out the rest of the year. Like the rest of the year into the end of December for Chelsea, very favorable run of fixtures. We are not facing another team in the top 4 until the end of January 25th, when we play Man City. Like you're talking about an opportunity, a springboard for Maresca and the team, particularly with multiple matches at home. I mean, you've got that match against Fulham at home, the match against Brentford at home. I mean, Tottenham's toilet bowl is essentially a second home for Chelsea with the amount of points that we take over there. Definitely, I think a little more opportunity for optimism, Sam, about what could come from Maresca and the team after the international break. Continue to push forward in the Conference League with the results that we've had there. It does feel as if not a perfect score for Maresca, but he definitely navigated, I think, a tricky run of results. Good, not great. Opportunity was there to improve. I mean, the cup loss to Newcastle, very unfortunate. The draws against United, I mean, definitely probably the biggest kind of miss there, I think. And Liverpool was probably there for the taking. So how do you feel about how this last kind of set of fixtures went down, international break to international break, and how are you feeling heading into the next run of results between now and the end of the year?
I may get lambasted for saying this, but it feels par for the course in terms of what happened last season, where we looked very good against the big sides. Like we came up against Tottenham, blew them away, came up against Brighton, blew them away. Arsenal, we were supposed to win, mistakes happened, and it was against, these favorable fixtures that we actually dropped points. So I'm hoping that, we are able to navigate that particular run of fixtures. Like you have to be a flat track bully in this league to be able to cement your position. So it's great. Hindsight, I look back and say, okay, if there's only one defeat after playing Brighton, Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, would you take it? I'd probably say yes, especially considering where we are in terms of dynamics and how many competitions we have. But just feels like we're still not there. I think it's an ongoing evolution in terms of where we want to be. But hopefully the easier fixtures we deliver, that's the best I can ask for. Nick mentioned, it's just 2 points. 2 points up takes you to a different position, 2 points down takes you to a completely different stratosphere. So it's just perception that's holding us at this point.
Here's how you're gonna know if we're a serious team or not. I just counted. Thanks for that. The mate is great. I just counted our fixtures coming up and the points I expect to take from these fixtures. So the number is 19. We should double our points between now and the end of December. Okay. You're essentially going to beat Leicester. I'm giving us a draw against Villa. Southampton is a win. Tottenham, I'm giving us a draw. Do with that what you will. Just kind of taking the averages here. Beat Brentford, beat Everton, beat Fulham, beat Ipswich. That gives you 19 points if my math is correct. Between now and the end of December, puts you on 38 points heading into January. And
20
I think
points.
20 points. Okay. So yeah, essentially a little bit more than double your point output. That's a big swing, right? I mean, and these are, to be fair, these are favorable fixtures. I don't know that much about us right now in terms of like who we are against big teams because we haven't played that well against big teams. Like we played okay against City first game of the season, played okay against Arsenal, played okay against United, played okay against Liverpool. These are not great performances though. They're fine. Played decent against Newcastle, played decent against Brighton. But you have to win these winnable fixtures. If you get anything less than like 17 points, 15 points, something like that in this run, you're in trouble.
It does feel as if we will get a chance to see, after the international break returns, a little bit about who this Chelsea side can be. Obviously, we want to, project as much kind of positivity out there as we can. I think we're also trying to be realistic about where this side is. I mean, we've seen fantastic results. I mean, the 6-2 win against Wolves, I think, is kind of like be a special one this season. But then also, you starting the year off with a 2-0 loss to Man City, it does feel as if there's a seesaw element to this side still, and we're trying to find that balance, trying to find a piece of stability at times. And these are the type of clubs, Brandon, that hopefully you can whack up and beat up on a little bit to try to distance yourself from that kind of grouping now we see in the 19 points and the 18 points that are stacked behind us in the table. But it does feel good to be in third place. It does feel good to be looking down at more teams than we've looked at down previously in the last couple seasons here. I mean, it's got to be, good for the players to see that there's an opportunity here to build upon something. Good for Maresca, who's looking for confidence that, he is stepped up appropriately to this level. And I think great for the home supporters too, and the supporters at writ large who, definitely gave it to Kai Havertz today, which I appreciate.
I mean, he tried to give it to them as well. So I would expect nothing less. But yeah, here's the deal. Why third place doesn't feel great, and it's true, is that we have 1 win in 5. Correct. That's not a team coming from strength. This was a tough run that we talked about and we've highlighted between international breaks. So we've got that. This is the point where Nick said, like, you have to start putting some wins together, right? From now, once you get back from the break, Leicester is about as ideal as can get. It's Maresca's former team. He should know plenty about them. It will be a little bit of a grudge match for them, I'm sure, but he equally will not want to lose against Leicester with Chelsea. So that should be a good one. I think most of our players should be around over the international break, especially Colton Knock. No sense in going to England or anything like that. I will also say the Conference League is a bit of a blessing right now. It doesn't seem like we have to really stretch ourselves. We're literally playing completely different 11s. And I wish the app would stop saying 11 changes. Like, yeah, we get it. We have 2 different teams, like, well aware. But it's not stretching us at all. Like maybe Villa are struggling, right? They've lost a handful in a row, managing that. And it could just be a blessing in that sense, that we're not having to kind of dip into our starting 11. You talk about Arsenal and Chelsea. Arsenal had to play Champions League midweek, right? Well, Chelsea got to rest almost every single one of our players, if not all of them, and then got to come in more fresh, which is an advantage. So I think you will start to see a separation at the turn of the year, which we usually do, especially with the Boxing Festive fixture crunch. It gets really tough, but 3 points, like Nick said, from 11th place to 3rd right now, something's got to shake it up. And Ipswich beating Tottenham after Tottenham smacked Villa, like this is going to be another weird season, just like last. So got to take the opportunities when we can.
I mean, Sam, we also got to enjoy the fact that this result has apparently done a number on Arteta. His comment after the match, I think we dominated Chelsea, and I'm very disappointed in the way we conceded. It was so poor. You needed the quality of Neto to do it, but our standards were not good enough.
Great.
Detached from reality or absolutely in a different world altogether? What do you think?
Now, to quote my British friends, what is blood waffling about? Genuinely, like I I don't see that point of view at all. Like I felt like a point was deserved at the end of the day, and yeah, Artetaing. So don't. This is why they don't win titles. So let's just put it plainly.
Oh man, in no way did either team dominate this game. It was awful to watch for large stretch. Like, what are you talking about? You absolute muppet.
It was like It was like, a two-horse race and both trying to come third. Like that's what the game was for me, to be honest.
And we
And-
did.
And I think this is good for Chelsea, right? Because if anything, you can say that we forced Arsenal down a couple levels, injuries, fitness, whatever. But like that is good, knowing that they were in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, pushing to the title at the end of the season. Like we're not where they are. So I think, Dan, what is nice is that we are able to make them look very average on the day, albeit they're on a bit of a slump anyways. But that is a positive for this group.
Look, I know Halloween is over, but we were the zombie hand popping up out of the ground to drag them into the crypt with us. So that was very much the result here. But look, that's going to do it for this live stream. We got tons more Chelsea content coming at you this week. We got to talk about the Chelsea women's team continuing to absolutely demolish teams in the WSL. We'll have to talk about getting ready for this next run of fixtures too. So plenty of content coming your way. Thank you so much for joining us on the live stream. Or if you're listening back on the podcast, we appreciate it. Drop that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.